Thank you for joining today. And again, as usual, we will start with the breathing, watching the breath mindfully. Again, just try to relax. Make yourself as comfortable as possible. And feel the weight of your body on cushions or chair. And watch your breath mindfully and be aware as you breathe in and out. Then we can try to have good intention, motivation for being here. And we can contemplate and think all the comfort that we enjoy and experience in our life all come through health, contributions, and kindness of others, directly, indirectly. When it's too cold, there is a place to make fire in the woods or a heater. None of these were created by ourselves, all of them. When there is too much hot, fan or air conditioner to keep it cool. We were able to do that because of so many other beings' contributions, directly, indirectly, to create that. We have a nice bed to sleep. Whether it's public transportation, whether it's our own transportations, we are able to use them. Again, we didn't make them. but because so many other peoples put together. So we are receiving all the convenience, comfort through the contributions, kindness of other sentient beings. All the food we eat, meals, most of them, if not all, from others. All the clothes we wear, if not all, most of them come through others. The shelter, the house we live in, is built by others. So from very morning to the evening, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, all the comfort, physical comfort, convenience that we experience, we enjoy, coming from others' contribution, kindness. Without them, we will not have access to that. Without that, we will not have same comfort and convenience that we have at the moment. So try to feel the contribution and kindness of others in towards our pleasure, happiness, comfort. Same, when you are not feeling well, we have access to the health and everyone who provides, whether it's the doctor, whether it's the nurse, whether it's the staff, whether it's the volunteers, whether it's the people who invest, whether it's those who create all these equipment, technologies, medicines. It's also kindness and contribution from them that we have access to health when we are not feeling well. All the education we get is again so many beings, not only the teachers, all the staff who work in the school from our kindergarten until we finish. All the people throughout decades, centuries, who invested in educations, improving, developing. It's kindness of others that we are able to receive the educations, what the education we have. It's the kindness of others that we are able to find a job, who provides us a job to make living, to earn. So they are involved directly, indirectly all the time. And on a spiritual level, same. It's through others that we are able to study the Dhamma. And have all the materials. It's through the contributions of others that we are able to practice. It's through others who are able to practice generosity. It's through others who are able to practice moral discipline. It's only through others who are able to practice patience. It's through others that we are able to cultivate true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind. So again, it's through the contributions of others that we are able to practice and to develop those spiritual realizations and improve those realizations. And it's all through the kindness and contribution of others that we will be able to achieve fully awakened state, fully enlightened, fully awakened state. Without support, help, contribution of others, we cannot. So since all sentient beings has been directly, indirectly, in one way, another way, contributing towards our comfort, well-being, spiritual practice, realizations, so forth. Through their kindness, it will be inappropriate and not right and correct to completely ignore the other sentient beings and their well-being. And to think only one's own happiness. Not only from the Dharma point of view and both of the practice point of view, even in ordinary worldly point of view, not to repair the kindness and totally neglect, ignore them. It's inappropriate, not right, not correct. Therefore, I must be concerned with others' well-being, others' happiness, others' sufferings, and try to contribute, try to be service, help in whatever way, directly, indirectly. Whenever is possible. in whatever way we can help. And even though there are so many different ways that we can support and help others, but the greatest help and benefit will be if we can help them to overcome their own respective emotions or afflictive emotions, the defilements, which are the main root of sufferings and problems. And to help them to achieve not just temporary, unstable, fleeting pleasure and happiness, but if we can help them to achieve everlasting true happiness, and to be able to help them in that way with our own direct experience, we ourselves first need to be free from all those afflictive emotions, all the obscurations, and achieve fully awakened state by actualizing all the positive inner qualities, such as highest level of true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, wisdom, and so forth. And that is not going to come just by wishing. We need to create cause and conditions. That means actualizing the path within our mind stream. All the bodhisattvas, bhumi, and the paths. And to do that, we need to practice, contemplate, meditate, and practice. Not only practice, to practice continuously, not just once a week, once a month, but every day as much as possible. As many times, all the time, as much as possible in the day. Continuously, correctly. And for that, we need to be reminded of the importance of those practices all the time. So that is why we have come here together, to be reminded of the importance of those practices. And after being reminded, then trying to apply, integrate as much as possible in our everyday life, in whatever way we can. There are many different practices, different way of integrating, implementing in our own. But whatever way that is most helpful, beneficial to us, we try to integrate that as much as possible. So try to create a strong determinations to do that. The purpose of us coming here to do the weekend retreat is so that we get reminded and maybe hopefully some inspirations, being very inspired to continue to take the practice in our everyday life, not just only 3 days here. And may ourselves coming together to listen and to engage in discussion, reflect, contemplate, and practice. Meditate may all become cause and condition to achieve fully awakened state. In order to be greatest help and benefit to all sentient beings. And while we are still on the path, of course, we can also be benefit and help as much as we can according to our individual capacity, ability. Okay.
Refuge in bodhicitta, once in English and twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soki chonam la janchu bardu dagni kapsu chi dagi chonen gepe sonam gi drola penshir sangye drupar sho sangye chodan soki chonam la janchu bardu dagni kapsu chi Dagi chonen gepe sonam gi drola penshir sangye drupar sho.
So before we continue from where I left yesterday, in relation to the practice we have been doing, and I just wanted to of course, there was one questions someone asked, and I think maybe that is what also a lot of people could feel sometime. And that is also one of the reasons I think at the first day, Friday, we talk about the Buddha nature. And the feeling is kind of a doubt whether we can actually really achieve enlightenment. Can we really achieve enlightenment? Is it really possible? I think that kind of doubt, I think a lot of people have time to times, whether those delusions can be permanently overcome it, We do know that with our own experience, they can be reduced, With our own experience, we know we can let go of certain delusion for a certain period through certain practice, thinking, meditations. But again, it come back later, when we face another different conditions, situations, and like that. And so, and so then sometimes we started to doubt and feel, is it really possible? But again, as we discussed on a Friday, we discussed about the Buddha nature and true nature of the mind, and how delusion are temporary, and how they are not in the nature of the mind itself. And so therefore, when you apply the antidotes, when you apply the antidote, the positive spiritual realization, then definitely we can overcome them. By cultivating the wisdom, we can overcome the ignorance. And by overcome the ignorance, we can overcome all the delusion which arise from that. So I think we also already kind of touch on that. That is why I wanted to start. And I think we spent quite a lot of time on a Friday on that. And also sometimes, certain things, even we are not convinced and totally believe it, but we just do it. And as we do it, things we might feel differently. And we have doubt in our life every day in everything. And I was telling, I had many doubts when I was as a monk, whether this is my path or not. I went through a lot of struggles. I went through a lot of doubt, and not just one time, so many times especially when I was much younger, But with the support of some of my teachers, their advices, learning with your own life experiences, giving time before deciding to leave it. So all that helped me, all that helped to clear that doubt and not have any doubt anymore, and being convinced this is my path. And I also have doubt on many things, I have doubt about my role as a teacher, for example. Sometimes I doubt that myself. Sometimes it helps through the support of my teachers, some friends who encourage me. And sometimes I get discouraged. Sometimes I doubt myself. Is this what I should be doing? Is this benefit? Am I being benefit? So again, that is part of the process. It's not like one time I go through that, many times. But, I still try to continue and see. I doubt whether it's best for me to be here or not. So these are part of our everyday life, not just enlightenment, even in small things, in every small decision, small things but that doesn't stop you from doing just because you have doubt of something, because you are not 100% convinced. I'm not 100% convinced this is the best. Me as a teacher is the best. But still, I continue to do that because of, again, some encouragement, some advice from my teachers, friends, as well as some students and so on. But then, in that same, even being here for now 10 years, this is the 10 years, my second time in New Mexico. But again, when I came, I wasn't sure. I wasn't convinced how long I might be here or not be here, So that was a lot of, so that is in our life. We have so many doubt every day, but still, you try to, despite all this doubt, you try to see, analyze and see which side has more weight, basis on that. There is more on this side weight at the moment, so you just follow that. And after some time, certain doubt get clear and you have more clarity in that. And that will be same with a lot of practice. Also same, sometimes we have certain doubt about certain practice. And that is okay. We wouldn't be 100% convinced and have clarity from the very beginning in many of the practice. But with some open-minded, you keep on doing, and then with the time, you begin to, things started to manifest, comes, and you begin to see things from different perspective. You feel differently, you see differently, and it open, and then you have more clarity, maybe less doubt. Even in my cases, even in many of the practices, I don't have total clarity on that. It's not I don't have doubt on many of the practice, many of the teachings, many of the subjects. But there are many things that over the time, as I study more and with my own some experience, as well as discussions I've been able to clear many of those doubts. One time when I had doubt, I don't have those doubts. But still I have some other doubts. Hopefully those might be also clear over the time, either through, through studies and more informations, or through your experience, so that is part of the journey. That's part of the journey, And even, even we are not sure, 100% sure whether enlightenment can be achieved or not, whether the delusion can be completely overcome or not. But through those meditation, if we can become a little more kind, compassion, that's good enough. That is good. Through those practice, if you become better person than you used to be, if you, through those meditation practice study, if you become more compassionate, more kind, and more considerations for others, that means you are on the path, on the right path. That's good enough. Through those practice meditation, if we are able to reduce some of those negative thoughts, emotions, selfish attitude, reduce a little bit of that egoistic mind or ego, and all other delusions, if we can reduce, that is good. It's good for yourself. You have more peace, more happiness, and also you create less harm to others and be more help to others. And that is it. So, and, then with the time, as you practice, then maybe things open up, when you start to develop more stronger compassion, more stronger wisdom, more stronger patience, and all those different spiritual realization or spiritual experiences. Then, things that you don't see or you don't feel before, you started to see differently. You started to feel differently. Things that you don't feel possible before, you begin to see is possible. Things that you didn't believe, you started to see, is possible. is there. So I think, so that is, I just wanted to kind of touch on that. Because there was someone brought up that questions this morning. Okay. And because also, it is, even one of the students brought the question, but a lot of people could have that. So yesterday, in terms of the practice, because we're on 7 branches of the practice, and we're on page number 7. Yesterday, we went through the first 3, and we're in the rejoicing. So in terms of rejoicing here, the verse itself, with a heart full of delight, I rejoice in all the merit of Sarvaska, Pradeva Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and every living beings through the 3 times. So, so rejoicing in the merit, rejoicing in the virtues, rejoicing in the positive of, those who are on the path of the arhat, individual liberations of Hirya or Sarvaka, and solitary realizer of the Buddhas, and the Bodhisattvas. We rejoice in the virtues, the merit of all the Bodhisattvas and arhat, and those who are on the path to the arhat. And we also rejoice in the virtues of all the ordinary beings who are not on the path. And also we rejoice in our own virtues. And again, yesterday we were talking about how those 7 limb or branches of practice, when it is not just reciting those words, but if you really do from sincerely from your heart, if you truly rejoice, truly, sincerely feel good, delightful, joy when you see in someone's merit, someone's virtues, then it is a antidote towards the negative feeling of miserliness, jealousy or envy, The mind of jealousy or envy is, when you see success of someone, instead of being so happy for them, you are not so happy. Instead, you wish that happened to me, So that is envy, jealousy. When you rejoice for their success, their goodness, their happiness, their virtues, their merit, then that becomes antidote for the jealousy, the envy, And Lama Tsongkhapa explained, and also many others, it says, the rejoicing is one of the powerful, easiest way to create a lot of merit. And we talk about it yesterday, what the merit means. The merits are those virtues, positive energy that act as a conducive conditions for our spiritual growth, for our spiritual realizations. Here, and so that, so based, in order to have our spiritual realization, in order to do that, as we mentioned, you need to clear the obstacle and you need to create all the conducive conditions. And that is what this practice helps to create conducive conditions. And in many scripture they talk, in many commentaries, it is explained, if you rejoice to the virtues of someone in terms of your spiritual realization who is higher than yourself, by rejoicing their virtues and merit, you receive half of what they create by that virtues. If the practitioner or the other person is the same, equal in terms of your spiritual realization, you receive equal. If the other person whom you are rejoicing is less than you and you are more higher developed practitioner, then you receive more than them from rejoicing in their virtues. Of course, this is something that, but regardless of whether that is, we can take it literally or not, but there's no doubt we receive virtues because we are developing positive thought instead of negative thought. Do you get it? We are cultivating a positive thought by rejoicing in someone's success, someone's happiness, someone's virtues, instead of negative feeling, thought of jealousy, envy. So just by having that positive thought, definitely you are creating positive karma, positive virtue. You are having a virtuous thought. Just by itself, you create a virtuous merit. And it is antidote for that negative thought. There is a story, at the Buddha's time, one of the king invited the Buddha and his other monks, nuns, his followers, sangha, for a meal, and then he offered them a meal. At the end of the meal, the Buddha always kind of dedicate the virtues merit created by who you were inviting, by offerings, the meals for the sanghas. So they dedicate that merit. Buddha used to, and the Buddha asked, to whom I should dedicate? To the king, The king was kind of, I think he was a little embarrassed to ask to dedicate for him. Maybe he thought maybe he would, it might seem like he's too selfish or whatever, He felt a little bit embarrassed to ask for him, to dedicate for him. He couldn't say directly dedicate. So indirectly, he tried to say, dedicate for the person who created the most merit from this virtuous act. So he thought it would be him because he was the sponsor, So that was his way of indirectly saying, dedicate for me, but he couldn't say it directly because he felt a little bit embarrassed. And then Buddha dedicated, when Buddha made the dedication, he dedicated for someone, there was a beggar, and he dedicated for the beggar, and the king was very surprised and shocked, and then, Buddha explained, the beggar by rejoicing, because he rejoiced the king so much, how wonderful the king is able to invite and offer those meals to all the sanghas. I wish I could also do. May I be able to do in the future. He rejoiced from depth of your heart for that. Whereas the king was feeling a little bit kind of pride, Whereas king was feeling a little bit of pride to be able to do that, And because of that, the beggar created more merit than the king. And so Buddha dedicated for him, So that is the story in terms of, how by that beggar, by dedicating, by rejoicing sincerely that he created even more merit than the king who actually offered the meals. So anyway, so that is rejoicing. And then I also feel So they explain also rejoicing your virtues, also multiply your virtues as well, your merit virtues. And I feel especially, feel like for the Westerner, I think, especially for the Westerner, I feel like you need to rejoice more in your virtues, your goodness, your virtues. And I think it seems like, I don't know, my impression, my feelings, Westerners seems to have more negative image of themselves and feel bad for themselves. That seems to be a more bigger problem than that I've encountered in the culture that I come from. People seem to be more harsh on themselves. Self-hatred, low self-esteem seem to be kind of much more higher level within that society, within that, So every day, if you try to rejoice your virtues, that means you are revisiting, you're recounting all the positive thought, positive things that you did. With that, then slowly it build up. And then you don't have so much negative image of yourself. There is something to balance that. Because we do have our own weakness, our faults, our own, and sometimes we tend to just look too much on that. And when you look at that, and when we don't see the positive side of ourselves, then that is how one can feel about oneself, the negative image of oneself. While we have our own shortcoming, while we have our own faults, while we have our own problems, at the same time, we also have the positive side of ourselves. There are also positive things, positive side. And so we need to balance that, And when you just focus on the negative side, that is where then it leads to that kind of dark place, And sometimes it's hard to be aware of our positive side. And so that rejoicing will be helpful for that, rejoicing. And sometimes I think of course, that is not the only reason, but one of the reasons I think why in among the Tibetans or in that Tibetan Buddhist culture, they count the practices they do, it is the everyday whatever mantra they do, And I think it helped to rejoice, I finished 100,000, I finished 1 million, I finished 1 billion. Small things, but by the end, when you see, oh, actually I've done that. So there's something to rejoice, I think it also helped in that way. It is something to rejoice. Also sometimes it is an inspiration for others, and it is also kind of something for them to rejoice as well. So, so anyway, I think rejoicing. And next one, imploring the Buddhas to turn the wheel of Dharma. Here I request or I implore you, according to the temperament and the mental capacity of a sentient being, please turn the wheel of Dharma of all the vehicles, lesser, greater, and generals. Yeah. So of course, as I mentioned, Buddha didn't give teaching for 49 days after his enlightenment, and he was only start giving teachings after he was requested. And so also following that same traditions, we always try to request, so that is request in return to the will of the Dharma, to give teachings, and here also, to give is really, again, request is to give teachings according to the temperament of the sentient beings. And that is another important factors. Sometimes the most vast and profound teaching might not be the best for someone else. For someone, the most simple teaching might be what is most profound for that person in that moment, in that time. Again, here it has very important teachings. When we try to help, benefit, even by teaching, by sharing your knowledge, wisdom, what is the nature of others? It's not about how much you know and what you have to offer. It's not to show up, I have all this knowledge, or I have knowledge of all this profound, very secret, very profound. It's more about the others, what their interests are, where they are in terms of the path, what their foundations are. That is how it's also from the student side, that should be how it should be approached, based on where our state is, instead of just trying to jump always, there are a lot of profound and very vast teachings. But if you don't have the foundations, those mean nothing. These are only profound if you have the good foundations. The profoundness is because of the good basis. If you don't have the good basis, it has nothing profound. And also there was one Adisha, he was very pleased when he first went to Tibet, when the king who invited him, Changju, when he requested, please teach the most suitable for the people. And Adisha said he was so touched by that. He didn't ask him to teach some of very profound teachings, which Adisha can teach because he was Nalanda master, great teachers. But the request was what was the most beneficial according to that level. And Adisha, it was mentioned that Adisha was extremely pleased because of that request. So anyway, that is not only teaching. I think it is same in every day, our time, even when we try to, with the best intention, we want to help, benefit someone. But instead of trying to understand what they really need, it is always about what I think they need. It's more of your opinion putting on them, even with the best intention, and that doesn't help. Sometimes as a parent, we do to children, maybe sometimes as adults, sometimes we do to others, on individual level. Sometimes country to country, it is also what sometimes that doesn't help. A country who is supporting economic aid and how it should, instead of understanding the local, what their needs are, and even you spend so much money, at the end there is no result. There's no good result because it wasn't implemented according to what their needs are, but it was implemented what you think, and sometimes those doesn't have good result. So much money is spent, and it's almost like wasted. So much resource, so much money. But in time you go to the real world, who are supposed to make the differences, it has not made the differences. And so, yeah. Of all vehicles, so yeah, lesser and greater. And general, I think here means common, common, which is the Sutra Tantra, And so in terms of the, so by requesting the turn of the wheel of Dharma, again, it creates a merit, it creates a merit. And in terms of negative emotions, then it becomes obstacles. Antidote towards the negative thoughts towards the Dharma. If you have negative thoughts toward the Dharma, then of course you wouldn't request to turn the wheel of the Dharma. So when you request someone to teach, that means you appreciate the teaching. That means and so that act as a in terms of when you ask with sincerely with that kind of attitude, and that attitude and requesting act as an antidote towards the negative feelings towards the Dharma and negative karma created in relation to the Dharma. And then requesting the Buddhas not to enter the Nirvana, so in terms of the verse here, until samsara has been completely emptied, until each and every sentient being is liberated, I beseech you, do not pass into the Nirvana. Please look upon us with your boundless compassion, and we flounder in this ocean, as we flounder in these oceans of suffering. Again, from the Buddha's side, the compassion is always there. We don't have to kind of, from their side, the compassion is always there. From their side, they will live until samsara ends. That was the commitment, determinations they made from the very beginning of the path when they entered the Bodhisattva path, while they are on the path, and that. But from our side, we need to create a cause and condition and create that. It's all about for us. It's not for the Buddhas. All these offerings, all this requesting, it's not for them. It's for us. Creating the karmic connections. Creating the connections. If you have karmic connections, you receive more. If you don't have karmic connection, even as enlightened being, due to not having karmic connection, you receive less in that way. There is story of the Bodhisattvas in the Prajnaparamita Sutta. There is a story of a Bodhisattva who's crying all the time. And he has reached quite high level Bodhisattvas, And because of that, he is able to have visions of the Buddhas. He's able to see, able to receive the teachings from the Buddhas as well. But then, one time he was told that there is a Bodhisattva whose name was Chopak in a certain area. You should go there. You have a strong karmic connection with him. And then he was in search of that teacher, and he go in Bodhisattva. And then, of course, there's long stories, but, and then he make much more stronger progress after he met the Bodhisattva Chopak, because of that karmic connections. In terms of the realizations, the Buddha has high realizations, fully enlightened. Chopak is still Bodhisattvas. But in terms of his progress, he is able to make much more quicker and stronger progress after he met the Chapa, because strong karmic connections, you know. Same with Milarepa, you know. First, he went to one teacher who was the most well-known, not only well-known, most greatest teacher of Mahamudra Dzogchen at that time, you know, the highest kind of. But because he didn't have the karmic connections, you know, he didn't really touch or connected with him. And when he went, and when that teacher said, you know, you have a karmic connection with the Marva, and when you went to the Marva, you know, that changes. In terms of expertise, in terms of the realization, the other teacher was much more, you know, but because he didn't have karmic connections, somehow there was something that didn't connect, you know. And so that is, you know, sometimes we feel like, you know, if we see the Buddha, we will be fully enlightened, easily enlightened. If we see someone who is Bodhisattva, we will get less. Or if the person is even not Bodhisattva, we will get less. But that is not always the case. You know, it also depends. A lot of time your karmic connection play also a big role. So again, all of this, you know, when you make requests to the gurus, the Buddhas, to turn the wheel of Dharma, to live, to have a long life, to live until samsara ends, again, is a way of creating that karmic connection as well. You know, and with that karmic connection, then again, you know, we will be able to receive and get more, you know, regardless of what their level of their realizations on the path is. So this is in terms of so again, when you request someone to live until the samsara ends or forever, then it means you kind of appreciate that person's, you know, the guru, the Buddhas, you know, you appreciate them. And so it is antidote to have a negative feeling, negative thoughts towards the guru, and it purified the negative karma that we have created in relation to the gurus. You know? And so that, and then dedications. And of course, there are many dedications here. May whatever virtues I've amassed become the cause of enlightenment. So it is dedicating for the enlightenment. May I quickly, without delay or deferment, become an excellent guide to all beings. So it is dedicating to achieve fully enlightenment and to be guide to all sentient beings. So Lama Tsongkhapa and also many other masters says, you know, there are three great dedications. One is dedicating for enlightenment. You know, one is dedicating for the spreading of the Dharma, because the Dharma is the source of happiness of all sentient beings. If they really practice the Dharma, and if they actualize Dharma within themselves, and that's when true happiness starts coming. You know, and then dedicating for the longevity of those, you know, masters who truly, authentically follow the Dharma and share the Dharma, you know, for them to have long life, because the longer life they have, the more they are able to reach more sentient beings and benefit more sentient beings. So here, enlightenment, and of course, dedicating for all sentient beings. And dedications is a way to preserve your virtues. It says, even we have created virtues such as wrong view, negative thoughts such as wrong view or anger can destroy them. But if you dedicate, for enlightenment for all sentient beings, then it cannot destroy that virtue completely by this anger and others. So in that way, it is kind of a way of preserving it, that it doesn't get destroyed completely by such as negative force of anger, wrong view, and so forth. Also, by dedicating for enlightenment, all sentient beings, Shambhava and many other masters, they explain, if you dedicate, then until you achieve enlightenment, you will continue to experience the result of that one virtues, inexhaustible. Whereas if you don't dedicate it that way, then you experience and it's finished. So it is like, example is like one drop of water, that you put one drop of water in the oceans, and one drop of water will be there as long as the ocean is there. Compared to one drop of water in the cup and you drink it, and it's finished. The virtues that not being dedicated in such a way can be like that. One drop in the cup and you drink it, you experience the result of that, and then it's finished. But when you dedicate for all sentient beings for enlightenment, then it's like putting a drop of water in the oceans, and you continue to So since you have one drop of water, then as long as your part is there. I think there was a story. There were two men traveling in Tibet, and they were carrying samba, it's roasted barley flour. That is one of the main staples they eat, It's roasted barley, and they make flour from that. So since it's roasted, you don't have to cook, You can just eat it, with tea. That is one of the main staple. So they were traveling, and they both have carried that, samba, and one was very smart. His samba was running out, But he has a better samba. The other one didn't have the better quality, but he had a lot of samba. And he said, why don't we mix it, And the other has no innocence, and say, yeah, let's mix it, And then, and then, he finished his samba. I think whatever, after the mixing, he got what his portions, whatever that. And then, he still says, my portion is still there. We have mixed it. So my portion, because they have mixed it, so his portion is still there, So then the other cannot say no, because still in his, whatever he has left, there is portion, because they have been mixed. So it just reminds me that story as we are talking that, so that is dedication. And then, next is, as we said about yesterday, praying to the Avalokiteshvara, seeing Avalokiteshvara in all. And if you can see it, it's all in that. Avalokiteshvara. There was one comments by Adisha, when he came to Tibet, and in Tibet he said, we Indians rely on one deity and actualize, accomplish 100 deity. You Tibetan rely on 100 deity and you cannot accomplish one deity. That is what he said. Because, we follow, this initiation, or this deity, or this atheist, never ending. And then your mind is kind of, your devotion is divided here and there and here, and not strong to anyone, any of them. And that is what, he mentions, And so, again, and it's true, if you accomplish one deity, one Buddha, then you accomplish all, because they are in essence all same. In essence, it's all same. Same essence, same energy manifest in different form. And so in essence, it's the same. And so therefore, that is how, here they're trying to see all in Avalokiteshvara, So seeing the Avalokiteshvara as the Guru as the Avalokiteshvara, inseparable, seeing the Yidam as the Avalokiteshvara as the Yidam, no separate between the Yidam and Avalokiteshvara, and sublime, noble as the Avalokiteshvara as the sublime, noble, Avalokiteshvara as the refuge as the Avalokiteshvara, inseparable, all in Avalokiteshvara, loving protector, being Avalokiteshvara. And then, hold me in your compassion, caring, victorious ones, for us being with wander inless to samsara and subject to intolerable pain and sufferings. Protector, we have no other refuge, but you inspire us to attain omniscient and awakened mind. So again, also even we don't request, of course, Avalokiteshvara always has the compassion, caring, loving, all the time, whether you request or not. That is Avalokiteshvara, that is the Buddhas, that is the Bodhisattvas. But why we make requests is that it's not like they will not act if we don't request, and they will act if we request. Do you get it, what I mean? From their side. But again, as I mentioned, it's all about ourselves, creating the cause and condition to receive it. The blessings of the rain is always there. It's raining, but to get the water, you need to fill the container. The rain have no discrimination. It's just, if it's raining in this area, it's raining. If you don't have container, you will not be able to collect the water. If you have the container, you will only be able to collect. So making such request, and this is creating that container from our side to be able to receive that. Okay, so it is, yeah. So again, I think these are, sometimes important for the understand, those small, subtle and details, otherwise it feel like the Buddhas only help us if we pray, if we prostrate, if we make offerings, if we request, and it seems like they are not doing that if we don't do that. That is why we are doing it. It's nothing to do with that from their side. Otherwise, they wouldn't be fully enlightened. Otherwise, they will be just like ourselves, being biased. Otherwise, they're no different from us, ordinary beings. So then why we do that? Then if that is the case, why we need to do that? So it's about creating the karmic connection, creating the cause from our side, creating that put in that container, So yeah, okay. So maybe I will. Can you put later? Yeah.